Hello and welcome everyone. Today I want to talk about ELO, backgammon, ranking players and PR. And for that, I will use Semigam, a game I constructed during my research. Semigam is backgammon, but on half a board, and 6 checkers per player, with 2 notable differences. First, there's a limit of 3 checkers per point, and second, the dice is 2-sided, a 1-2 die and a 1-3 die, so you can roll 1-1, 1-2, 1-3 and 2-3 with equal probability. Let me show you a short game I played against Eddie the computer, the absolute master of Semigam. I'm green, playing counterclockwise, and Eddie is red. I made some small errors at the start, but had good dice, and eventually managed to close Eddie out and win a gammon. Great, but you know the drill. You win against the bot, which is pretty rare, and feel good for a minute. Until you look at the analysis and find you made 2 serious blunders, both on double 1 obviously. The first was during the bear-off. Here I bluntly followed the clear from the rear mantra, and failed to realize that bearing off 2 checkers give 20% more gammons, while wins remain about the same. A better player would get this right. But what about this position? My move was 2 checkers from 7 to 6 and 2 from 5 to 4. Turns out there are 5 better moves. Here is the second best move. Put red on the roof and gain a lot every time she dances, which is 25% of the time. Now pause and see if you can find the very best move, 0.09 better in fact. And here it is, 7 to 5 and 5 to 4. No human and no imperfect bot would make such a loose move, breaking both anchors. But it turns out that when not hit back, on red 1-1 and 1-2, you storm the castle to countless backgammons, and even when you do get hit, you are still the favorite. Hopefully, I managed to convince you that Semigam is backgammon in a smaller package. Smaller, and so simpler, but still complex enough to be challenging, with blunders just a click away. In fact, it would be extremely hard to master Semigam without a good bot, and here we have one in spades. Semigam is small enough to solve, that is, I was able to compute the exact equity of each and every position, and so Eddie can play perfectly and annotate games down to 7 significant digits, which is really handy when investigating a dice game. The dice introduces a lot of variability, and it's nice to eliminate the errors from our imperfect understanding of the game. But Semigam is just a tool. What we really wanted, as you remember, is to look at ranking players, and for that we need players. I wanted some variety, so I came up with 3 types. First, there are the really basic players that consider only base features: the race, the number of blots to hit, containment of opponent, etc. Those are obviously the weakest players. Then there are the graded forms of Eddie. That is, players which sometimes make the best move and sometimes make a suboptimal move. And by raising or lowering the probability of making errors, we can get players of various strength. And then we have some neural nets, whose strength depend on the amount and quality of training data and training time. I'm not going to dive into the details, since this video is technical enough as it is. What's important is that we have 18 players of different strengths and styles, which is more than many psychology experiments have. So let's rank them by what really counts: points. Let everyone play everyone, lots of times, and rank by total points per player. For that, I got every pair to play 140,000 games, more than 2 million games per player. And here are the results. The x-axis shows the player nickname, be something for the basic players and something for neural nets, D's for Sons of Eddie, and G for the GOAT, Eddie himself. The y-axis is the expected number of points for that player, the total points won divided by the number of games. Now, 140,000 games ensure that even the smaller differences here are significant. Again, I leave out the technical details because I want you to focus on the important stuff, which is, although ranking by total points is as fair as it gets, not everybody is happy. N1 is ranked behind N6 and N8, and yet, as she grumpily points out, she beats both of them one-on-one. How can that be? Well, it all comes down to those styles I mentioned. Players have styles. Say that player A is weaker than player B one-on-one, but more aggressive trading wins for gammons, and that helps her extract more points from lower ranking players. So she ends up with a higher total overall. In general, pairwise strength and overall strength can disagree. This is true in general. There is no perfect ordering in backgammon sites or wrestling or a football league or any community where players or teams play one against each other, as opposed to competing in one big race. Ranking by total points isn't perfect, because nothing is, but it's the best we got. Unfortunately, it's also impractical for everyone to play an insane number of games against everybody else. So this is where ELO comes in. The ELO system, named after the physics professor who created it, assigns a numerical value to each player. This number, the player ELO rating, is more than a grade. The rating difference between A and B estimates, via the ELO formula, the probability that A beats B. Let me show you how it works in the following simple game. You and I play one-shot horse. I shoot one free throw, you shoot one, the order doesn't matter, and if you make yours and I don't, you win 1 point. If the reverse, I win 1 point, and otherwise it's a tie and nobody gets points. Say you make your free throws 70% of the time, and me 50%. You win a point 35% of the time, me 15%, and the standard ELO formula says our rating difference is 147. Now add my little brother, who makes a free throw 30% of the time. I too win 1 point from him 35% and he 15%, so our rating difference is the same as between you and me, 147. ELO ratings are additive, so the rating difference between you and little brother is twice 147, or 294, which, lo and behold, translates back to exactly 49 divided by 58, your win rate against him. And this is the beauty and reason behind the ELO formula. In this simple setting, each player has an exact and unambiguous rating which reflects the win probabilities. Unfortunately, this perfection holds only in the simplest of games. Say we play a slightly different game, where each of us shoots one free throw and a three-pointer, and whoever makes more shots wins. This time, with the probabilities of making each type of shot as shown on the screen, B thinks that the skill difference between A and C is 178, while the actual difference is 219, a discrepancy of 41 ELO points. In this game, even with just 3 players, any rating assignment will annoy someone. It's the same old style problem. There are 2 separate tasks, and player X can be better than Y at one task and worse at the other, and that's enough to create ranking inconsistency. ELO can't solve this fundamental problem, because nothing can. ELO is a practical system, which lets us estimate the relative strength of A and B from their games against C, D, and E, etc. But before we dive into practicalities, let's examine the ELO consistency of our 18 players. Here's Eddie's ELO chart, constructed from those 140,000 games he played against each of the other players. And by Eddie's chart, I mean that the rating difference between Eddie and each of the other players is exact, but differences between other pairs are inferred. Also notice that by convention, ELO values are centered around 1500. Now add the chart of B1, our weakest player. As you can see, the discrepancy can be larger than 100 points. And after adding the other players, we get this nice fuzzy vine. Again, this is to demonstrate that there is no one true rating assignment, even when removing the chaotic dice. You can of course apply some optimization criteria and get firm values shown here in yellow, but they are no more and no less valid than values obtained using other reasonable criteria. Still, fuzzy and all, ELO values and total points paint the same picture, and the ELO updating system is simplicity itself. Players win and lose rating points by winning and losing games, using just this one trick. The amount lost or gained depends on the rating difference. You win more points when beating stronger players and less when beating weaker ones. Specifically, the rating difference is converted to expected win amount, which gets multiplied by a scaling factor called capital K. K can be anything. This is where engineering enters the frame. ELO originally suggested K equals 32 for chess, but today high Ks are usually reserved for new players who typically start with a rating of 1500, and the update for established players uses smaller Ks. This trace shows the rating fluctuations for a little club with K equals 16. 2000 rounds are shown on screen, where each round consists of 153 games, one game between all possible pairs. And yes, it's not a pretty sight. 300 point swings are very frustrating. Surely a lower value like K equals 1 will be better. It is. But lower Ks are slow to react to change, slow to bring new players to their true rating, and slow responding to skill changes. So, what is the best K for Semigam? Or better yet, can we improve rating stability in other ways? One interesting approach championed by Backgammon Galaxy is a hybrid win plus PR system. PR, short for performance rating, is a measure of skill computed by inhuman bots such as XG or GNU-BG. The closer you are to playing like the bot, the better your score. And to win rating points, you need to win both the game and have a lower PR than your opponent. That is, win the game by playing better, not by getting lucky. At least that's a pitch. So let's give it a spin. We have the ultimate bot, Eddie, so our PR is exact and easy to compute. It just takes longer to run games, so I collected only 100,000 games per pair. Here is the distribution of PR values for each player. The blue box shows the 50% range, where half of the PR values lie. The red shows where 95% of the values are, and the blue bar indicates the mean value. This looks quite reasonable to me. PR values tend to have a very large spread. Some games are short and some are long. Some games contain many decisions, some few. Some games contain hard decisions, some not so much. But at the end of the day, PR is strongly correlated with the player's strength, and so is correlated with total points. It has to be. Better players make better moves, and better moves have a higher equity and are closer to the best move. But PR can be a little tricky. Note that, for example, B2, about 200 ELO points stronger than B1, has a worse PR overall. Seems paradoxical, until you look closely and see that B2's PR is much better than the average when playing against B1. So in their games, she has a slight PR advantage. This is something I noticed in my own games and while watching top players. Good players force you towards tougher positions and harder decisions, which leads to more mistakes. I bet Moazd rarely plays above a 5, but all bets are off when facing Mochi. So let's see how the win plus PR affects the rating difference between pairs of players. The x-axis shows the ELO rating difference for wins only, and the y-axis shows the win plus PR value. So for example, the 300 win-only difference between those two players grew to 750 under the wins plus PR system. In general, the wins plus PR ELOs are about 1.5 times larger, as shown by the orange line. However, aggregating the ELOs like that is too simplistic. Here is the same chart, but with the points color-coded by the stronger player ELO rating. Blue means the stronger player and red means weaker. Now it is clear that The stronger the player, the more they gain from the win plus PR system. This example with the ELO difference of 300 stretching to 750 is for a strong player, say 1700 against a 1400. The weaker player, say 1500 versus a 1200, gets only 20% increase. It's even easier to see this effect by comparing the ELO ratings of the two systems. Here are the ELO ratings for the win plus PR system, estimated using the same criteria as for the wins only. And here they are together, wins only in blue and win plus PR in yellow. The top 4 got more separation, and the same for the bottom 4, while the middle stayed about the same. Again, in short, PR creates more separation for strong and weak players, while standard mama bear players are only slightly affected. And it's also important to notice that ranking by total points, with or without PR, basically stays the same. And it's also true for ranking by ELO. It's practically the same with PR or without. Win plus PR is just a way to stretch the range. So, why bother with it? For that, we return to the first question. What is the best K for Semigam? There's no single magical value, because the best K depends on the ecosystem, that is, the pool of players, who plays whom, etc. etc. But we can test the performance of wins only versus wins plus PR under the same setup. So, imagine a club with 6 tables. Each night, 12 members arrive, and each of them plays 4 other random members, so 24 games in total. And every 30 days, one member drops out, and a new one comes in, starting with an ELO of 1500. The ratings update daily via the ELO formula, and then we compute the irritation index, which measures the ranking quality. It's the number of pairs A-B, where player A is better than B according to total points, but rated below B at this point in time. I know it's all a little arbitrary, but hopefully captures the essence of continuously keeping track of a dynamic pool with some randomness in who plays whom. I run this setup with different Ks, and here are the results for wins only. The best K for our fictional club is about 1.3, with an irritation index of about 5.25. And those are the results for the wins plus PR. The best K is about 3, with an irritation index of 4.4. So there you have it. Wins plus PR can adapt faster to change and keep people happier. The end. The end of this video, that is. Let's have a quick recap. Rankings are messy. Pairwise strength and overall strength can disagree, even for simple games, even for just 3 players. Every ranking is a compromise. ELO ratings are fuzzy, even with perfect data, for exactly the same reason as above. And yet, in practical terms, ELO ratings give, on average, the same ranking as total points. Wins plus PR increase the rating difference between players, more so for strong and weak players, less for players in the middle. And the win plus PR rating system is more accurate and more adaptable than wins alone. This is a summary of what I said. And now for what I didn't say. I did not claim that any of it is true for backgammon. Single game Semigam is not backgammon. Specifically, backgammon is way bigger and much more complex. And moreover, modern backgammon is either money games or matches to 3, 5, 7, etc. 2 variants which employ a doubling cube. And in addition, backgammon bots, while superhuman, are not godlike like Eddie. And even worse, human players are, what can we say, human, very different from computer players. So we don't really know how PR behaves in the wild and how similar it is to simulations. So here, I just showed that wins plus PR is a sound idea in principle, but we don't know how well it works in practice. And Galaxy is very secretive and unlikely to release any data, so this will remain another one of life's mysteries. I might expand on how cube usage affects ELO in another video, but until then, roll the bones and be happy.